Welcome, you beautiful subscribers, followers, people who like to watch my videos, and new people that come across my videos. I'm Victoria Bedford. I am a spiritual teacher, holistic trauma-informed therapist, energy healer, tarot worker, medium. I have been on a really deep journey of learning a lot about spirituality, learning a lot about healing, learning a lot about the academia side of therapy, which is psychotherapy, the scientific side, but also a lot of the spiritual side, which is energy healing, chakra work, inner child work, shadow work, polyvagal work, which is nervous system healing, somatic work. The list is endless. And the reason why I have studied, worked to understand all of these modalities is for myself. Some of you may know who I am because you've watched my journey, and some of you won't have a Scooby-Doo who I am and what my journey has looked like. I have been on one hell of a roller coaster journey since I was a young girl. I experienced many deep traumas in my childhood, which resulted in extreme mental health diagnoses in my early adulthood, bipolar. I mean, I could list the mental health diagnoses that I received. I could list the physical diagnoses I received because my body was also so traumatized. It manifested and developed illness. And I don't want to spend my whole video talking about that. And actually, maybe I'll do a video talking about on those things. But I am now at 43, nearly 43, medication free, working in therapy to help other people truly learn how to heal the mind, the body and the soul. Because 80%, 90% of therapies, especially in the NHS if you're in the UK, especially in mainstream, are not conducive to healing. They don't include inner child work, shadow work. They don't include body somatics and body healing, but these are vital to healing. What mainstream therapies focus on is the brain and how the brain stores and how the brain needs to be recalibrated and how the brain needs to be worked on. And this is very limiting. This is like taking a car to the garage and constantly getting the engine tweaked and fixed when in fact it's the brakes. And if you constantly just look at the engine and never look at the brakes, never look at the windscreen wipers, never look at the battery, never look at the oil, you are missing the fact that all these things have to work for the car to work, for a warning light of the car to not be there. In today's session, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about inner child work. Why inner child work is vital for me. Well, inner child is vital for the work that I do with my clients, and actually how it changes things. If there's anything that I know about trauma on the journey that I've been on all of the knowledge and all the things I've studied and all the things I've experienced, is you do not need to relive trauma to heal trauma. Now, that does not mean that you are not going to experience some memories or flashbacks as you're healing, but it does mean you don't specifically need to be taken into your traumatic memories to heal them. What you need to do is you need to learn how to bring the body into safety so that body does not react from a trauma response, which is triggers, emotional triggers, physical triggers. It's the body's response, an emotional response from past wounding. So you've got to bring your body into safety so it doesn't go into these triggers which are based from past wounding. Trauma can be healed by understanding how you heal the behaviours in the present, by giving space to the body to bring relaxation to it, to bring safety to it. Anyone who's ever experienced anything in their life that has affected them generally has a body that doesn't feel safe. But also, we explore inner child work. And when I first started inner child work on myself, I actually didn't really know what it was. I didn't know that I was working on my inner child. And when I started to then research it afterwards, I started to become flabbergasted with the things that I'd already been doing for myself. Already been doing the work without even realising I've been doing the work. So one thing that I have to say is, when we're looking at, put inner child work to the side one moment. When we're looking at trauma, we are made to believe that trauma is an extreme situation that's happened externally, which is clear trauma. We're talking big T traumas like death, abuse, sexual abuse. Like, we're talking big T traumas. We're talking, you could say, oh my God, that is a trauma. But there is something also called little T traumas. And for one, trauma is not an external event as such. Trauma is the way it impacts the body. So one person might say, well, it's not traumatic to lose your nan when you're younger because that's just life. But to another person who's very sensitive, whose nervous system has not been supported in their growth and is now just having this death thrust upon them, it could be hugely traumatic. To one person, moving home isn't traumatic, to another person it is. To one person, growing up in a home with lots of shouting isn't traumatic, but to another person it is, because it's not actually about the external experience of trauma. It's more about how your body stores it, reacts to it, and absorbs it. But when we're looking at inner child work, we are actually looking at how our childhood has shaped us as an adult. And the thing that I hear from so many people is, that was in my past. My childhood doesn't matter. Everyone goes through that. That's in my past. I don't need to look at my childhood. I don't need to explore that. And that's because that's what society has primed you to think. That you don't need to worry about any of that because you're an adult now. You just got over it, get over it. It is what it is. But that's like building a house on sand. And in 10 years' time, filling in all the gaps of the house as it's subsiding and falling because the foundations weren't strong enough. Because once upon a time, sand might have looked strong enough and a great place to build, but now it's not, and the house is cracking and falling down. And instead of looking at the foundations the house is built upon so that you can either rebuild the foundations somewhere stronger or have better foundations put in, you're just going to leave the foundations and you're going to keep paper in the cracks. And this is what most adults are doing. Most adults are papering in the cracks of their life, not realising where they come from. You are treating symptoms and not understanding causes. And I'm going to give you an instance, or some instances. As a child, what you did and did not receive is impactful. So if you grew up in a home where there was emotional dysregulation, shouting, parent whacking all the time, a parent maybe shut down and didn't show much love, or a parent that was, we're not here, by the way, to bash parents, because a lot of you are going to realise that there's some correlations in your own parenting. We're not here to bash parents. We're here to say you don't know what you know until you know it, and this is how you heal it. So you grew up in an environment where it wasn't safe to say how you feel. You grew up in an environment where you're judged if you don't blend in or act the way that you're meant to act. You've grown up in an environment where you don't really know, as a child, the core of who you are, but you're made to just do as you're told. You're made to get on with it, which is most people's childhoods, isn't it? So can you understand why so many people say, well, it's just normal? It was our childhood, it's normal, get over it. Well, it was most people's childhoods, and it was normal back then, but it's impactful, and I'm going to tell you how. But also, what you didn't receive is just as impactful. So if you didn't receive much love and connection, that's impactful. If you received a parent who gave you too much love, very little boundaries, helicopter parented you, over you all the time, trying to analyse everything you're doing, that's going to impact you. There actually is a lot in your childhood that's going to impact you in your adulthood. And you'll say, well, what a fast. You could say everything in our child messed us up. And it's not actually about being messed up or everything in your child affecting you. It's about realising that your childhood was what it was for whatever reason. It was navigated the way it was for whatever reason. But as you become an adult, you navigate life differently. And if you don't get taught certain things in childhood, how are you going to learn them in adulthood? So we have now got basically 8-year-old people in adulthood bodies running around having fits everywhere, running around suppressing emotions, having emotional meltdowns, or struggling in their behaviours because nobody is realising that You have to learn to reparent yourself. That in childhood, the primary role of your parent or caregiver is to try and keep you safe, to feed you. Some cases this didn't happen, a lot of cases. You know, the basic needs. And some parents will say, I gave the basic needs, that was enough. And it really isn't. We're now realising that it isn't enough. And again, this is not about bashing parents. We have 2 births in our life. We have a birth into childhood, where we have to do as we're told, we have to taught certain things, we have to fall in line. And then we have the birth into adulthood, where we learn what makes sense of our childhood and what we need to add in that's right for our adulthood. As a child, being taught to share is good. And that's not a parent's fault, teaching a child to share. But if you teach a child to share all of the time, in adulthood now, that child has become an adult that doesn't know when to not share. That is, I'm going to let everyone have a bit of me. I'm going to share my time. I'm going to share my money. I'm going to support people because that's my role. Because how does an adult naturally learn when to stop sharing if it's never been taught to them? When you have been taught to never speak back to your parent because you do as you're told and you just don't talk back. You're now in adulthood where your voice is, you don't know how to use it, because you now listen to all authority people, you listen to everyone, your partner, your children, you listen to everyone. And you will know internally, oh, I want to have a voice, I don't want to listen to everyone. But you've been primed and conditioned that you don't know what you think and feel, because you've never been allowed to think and feel, because it was just do as you're told. Now that was right for childhood. In childhood, yeah, you needed to a degree to do as you're told. But in adulthood, just doing as you're told is going to hinder you. Just doing as you're told is going to leave you to feel vulnerable. It's going to lead you to feel unheard and unsupported. It's going to lead you to feel like you don't know your place in life. And things that you learn in childhood, you pass to your children. Rigid belief systems that in our childhood we are told, you know, we're told so many things. I mean, like, some people are, you've got to understand how belief system work and conditioning works. When you're told stuff in childhood that good people do this, or you are meant to have 5 big healthy meals every night, these things worked for people at different points, but they might not work for you, but now you're conditioned to do that. The roles in childhood where you watch a parent, such as a mother, give all of herself to the bone, and she's so selfless, so wonderful, but now you have those same traits. You are so selfless, so wonderful, but you're also feeling like, without realising it, a bit of a martyr, because you're also feeling angry to a degree, because now you're doing everything. You're fulfilling this gender role that you've seen be play out. And how healing happens is, if you don't see a gender role play out, you may play it out yourself. So say in childhood you got a lot shouted at, you got a lot of shouting happen. In adulthood, you may never want to raise your voice to your children or anyone, so you try to never shout. But the thing about healing is we have to learn the balance of knowing sometimes raising your voice isn't a bad thing, because people need to know when they've pushed your boundary. And you don't wait until the point that everything's crashed down and then you start screaming. You learn how to be assertive along the way. When we learn to reparent ourselves, we learn, what did our childhood look like? How was I shaped by certain things? And again, some people may have to work through anger and sadness and grief because their childhood was traumatic. I was one of them. Some people are needing to heal from some things, or needing to reparent themselves from some things in their childhood, but their parents aren't inherently bad people, aren't inherently abusive people. We need to stop putting the categories in there that to heal means you must have had an abusive childhood or you must have had bad parents, because that's just not true. When we are healing, it's not necessarily we are healing from wounds per se. We are growing as people so that we can learn what we want in our adulthood, what we want our adulthood to look like. So when we look about reparenting and you're healing your inner child, I had to look at, what did I receive or didn't receive in my childhood that is hindering me now in my adulthood? So I received a lot of shouting, a lot of abuse. I would probably be on the more detrimental side of abusive home. I had parents had addictions, very abusive behaviours, shouting a lot of dominance. Not every home has that, but that doesn't mean that there is something, you know, If you have a parent that never shows sadness because they always want to appear happy, or never shows their hardships, or is always trying to protect the child from something, you're not teaching the child emotional resilience. So even though that child has not grown up in any abuse, that child has not grown up in any neglect, the child is growing up to believe that you need to suppress your emotions. They don't know. And what happens when you suppress your emotions is you either explode or you implode. Exploding is you may kick off every now and again on a Sunday when the house needs cleaning and you're fed up with doing it all yourself. You may kick off when people aren't washing the dishes. But you may implode through depression, through disconnection to self. You may implode that way. Because emotional dysregulation shows up in different ways. And when I teach things in therapy, we explore. And again, if we have to work through anger and sadness that you feel because of your childhood, we will work through that. It's giving you space and time to feel that. And you'll say, but it's not beneficial. I've been told that I work with people who've been on 12-step programs. And while they're great foundations to some degree, being taught to not feel your emotions is so detrimental. Being taught to just disconnect, being taught to just forgive. Having to forgive people who detrimentally hurt you before you've processed the feelings of anger, pain, and sadness, what you're really doing is you're really bypassing. There's a lot of organisations and therapies that teach you without meaning to bypass. They don't work because most people who do other therapies can stay stuck in loops because you're being taught forgiveness has to look like forgiving before you've even processed an emotion. You've got to learn to forgive yourself, for one, before you forgive anyone else. Forgive yourself for acting in ways that you didn't know any different. Forgive yourself for not being the person that you think you should be. Forgiving yourself for expecting yourself to get over something that has deeply hurt you. Forgiving yourself for pretending that you're okay with things where you're not. It's all about exploration of emotions, exploration. But when we're looking at your childhood in the landscape, what we're doing is we're really gauging, well, actually, I was taught to people please in childhood, but as an adult, I don't want to people please no more because it's not serving me. It's keeping me trapped in connections that are seeing me lose myself. Okay, as a child, I grew up in an environment that was emotionally disconnected or dysregulated. Right, now I'm either not able to express my emotions, I avoid conflict, or I'm emotionally dysregulated. Right, I know where it comes from, I've learnt it, I've been taught it. Now how am I going to start healing it? You're going to start doing some of the energy work around it, which is feeling the emotions, maybe doing meditations or visualizations. Then you're also going to learn new behaviors and you're also going to learn to rewire your brain. And this is the 3-step program to healing. It's you have to learn to rewire the brain while changing a behavior, while validating feeling emotions to change your energy. So actually it's a 4-step program. It's you can't just work on the brain and change thoughts and feelings and reprogramming. You can't just work on emotions and feel and validate emotions. You can't just work on behaviors. And you can't just work on your energy alone. You've got to interlink them because your behaviours are going to trigger your brain to spiralling, which are going to trigger your emotions, which are going to keep your energy low. But sometimes your brain is going to be the one that triggers your emotions, that triggers your behaviours. And then sometimes your behaviours are going to trigger your emotions, which trigger your brain. And sometimes your low energy is going to trigger one or the other. So when they CBT and DBT look at one element of things, you're not realising that actually what is going on in your nervous system is you've got a constant loops going on. And you have to learn to connect these loops, almost like an infinity symbol. You've got to learn to connect them so that you are not having misfiring wirings. You've got to learn through energy work to bring safety and connection and relaxation to the body. You've got to learn through, and it's easier than you think. When you get a therapist like me who works on all of the parts, you are able to talk about the things that have hurt you while also to connect to the body and start feeling the sensations so that you can ease them off and stop getting triggered while learning, because when you change your energy, you're able to reinforce a new behavior. Why? Because when your energy is stable and able to be connected to, and you're not in reactive mode, you are able to change your behaviors. But also, when your energy and your nervous system is in calm, you are not in your stress response in your brain. So it all plays a part. When we're trying to heal through most therapies are triggering that stressful response within your brain, which is leading you to now try and fight your healing through stress, through internal stress, and that just does not work. But inner child work is about, you can journal, you can do meditations, you connect through, I do them on another YouTube channel that I have, which is for all different kinds of meditations and energy healing work. I have another page which is called the Spiritual Hub Energy Healing. I will link the full name underneath, because actually it's still in the process of being created, because there is some meditations on this page, but I kind of wanted to separate it. So you've got one page for meditations, energy work and healing, and you've got one page for educational videos and for healing videos, and so that you are able to locate. So underneath I will put the name of my other channel. But when you are looking into inner child work, it's about asking the right questions. And in another video, I'll do some of the questions that you can ask healing your inner child, that you can start to explore and start to ask, so that you can connect to yourself. Healing your inner child is not just about exploring the landscape of your childhood. It's about connecting to that inner child that did not feel heard, validated, supported. I'm not necessarily going to say loved, because sometimes it's that, but sometimes it's not. Most children are never taught that their voice matters. Most children are not, and we are coming into a different age where it's looking a bit different now, isn't it? But most of us are healing from older generations that didn't know this stuff. To heal your inner child is to give space to that inner child within you, so you can understand what has hurt her or him or they. What do they need? Teaching your inner child to communicate with you that they need space sometimes, that your inner child needs rest, that your inner child needs nurture. You have not been taught in childhood what rest looks like. You've not been taught what relaxation looks like. You've not been taught what self-care looks like. You've not been taught what boundaries look like. You've been shown them by your parents. You've been taught basically what your parents knew. And most people did not have healthy parents. Do not mean they had bad parents, but you did not have the healthiest model of parenting. Now, are we ever going to be perfect parents? No. And actually, it's less about perfect parenting, and it's more about awareness to self. Even people who are in their most healed will have children that need to do this work to some degree, because there is no such thing as perfect parenting, because you'll never know what any of your children need. You can attune as best you can, but there is still going to be things that your child needs that you might not know and you might not give them, depending as well if you have more than one child. And I truly believe that in the spiritual evolution of humanity, that part of the purpose for every one of us is to go on a self-exploration journey, so that we can learn who we are. Because you can have all of the best intentions to be the best parent you can be, but life is involved too. We have a lot of things that happen outside of our pure awareness. We have a lot of things that happen outside of our control that we can try and protect our children from. But listen, right, so many people in this era are trying to protect their children because of the things that they experienced in their era. And that can also be as damaging. If you become a parent who is driven by guilt and shame, and you overcompensate for your children and you overgive, you are also hindering your children, because your children need to know boundaries and limitations. Your children need to know that there's no sometimes. Your children need to know that they don't need to manipulate you for things. Children naturally will do this. But if you helicopter parent your children, listen, we're all trying the best that we can with the knowledge that we have. And there are so many things that we learn as we get older as a parent that we don't know when we're younger. And it's just about being aware of it. It's just about how we can understand it. And there'll be some things that my children, your children will come back on, that you will be able to have honest conversations about, that will create bonding. Because the more honest conversations we have with our kids as they get older, the more we realise it's never about perfection. It's never about always trying to meet your child's needs, because you can't. It's about the journey of life. Every human to some degree needs to explore their inner child, needs to explore, because some highly sensitive people grew up in homes that were not equipped to navigate sensitivity in a kid. So if you've got parents who are so disconnected from the highly sensitive part of themselves, they probably can become maybe a little bit controlling, or a little bit, big boys don't cry, or come on now, just get over it now, because there's something in them that needs to heal. Everyone's doing the best with the knowledge that they have. Sadly, some parents do better than others. Sadly, some parents will have to, in adulthood, take accountability for the things that happened in childhood, and that's down to every human as to whether you do that. But one thing that I have to say is, taking accountability to what happened when you were parenting does not mean that it was your fault. And you'll say, well, what do you mean by that? Taking accountability means, yeah, I am sorry for some of the things my children may have experienced, but equally, it couldn't have been any different at the time, because I was on my own journey. I was healing my own stuff. So many people get defensive because they feel like taking accountability means it was their fault. They could have done something different. They've messed their kids up. That's just not true. Two of the same things can exist at once. You can take accountability while also reminding your children as they get older, but hey, I was going through stuff too, just like you will be, just like people do. I'm hoping that this video has helped you understand a bit about the inner child, understand why exploring the inner child is important, and hopefully it might prompt you to maybe work with me, or work with somebody else, or explore somebody else in inner child healing work. So if you are interested in any readings that I do, I'm an Akashic Records reader, I'm an energy healer, Sacrum energy healing, I am a spiritual teacher, but I also do tarot readings for deep healing things. If you're interested in any of the spiritual work that I do, or looking at the things that I do, then go onto my website, which is www.thespiritualhub.uk. I will put it down below. Please like, please follow for more educational videos that are going to help you in your healing journey, as they helped me.